Right.
Relax.
Hello, my name is Maritza. Our group name is Foxworthy with the following group members.
Alexa.
My name is Matthew.
My name is Jeremiah.
And my name is Romola.
Today we're going to do a story time about the Fox and the Hound, a friendship doomed from the start.
We will be recounting the story of the fox and the hound. It focuses on a fox and a hound becoming friends and how the friendship is tested and to see if it survives. I will be the first speaker. Hi, my name is Alexa. I will be talking about the beginning of the story. Our group name is Foxworthy. This is the beginning of the movie. A mother fox and her pup were being chased by a hunter and his dogs. She leaves the mother decides to hide her baby to keep him safe. She leads the hunter and the dogs away, but in the end, she ends up being killed. An owl named Big Mama sees all of it and decides to help the baby fox, as he had just become an orphan. The owl Big Mama goes and gets help from two other birds, a yellow bird named Dinky and a woodpecker named Boomer. They create a plan to get a kind farmer, Widow Tweet, out of her home and towards the baby fox. Tweet notices the baby fox and chooses to keep him. She ends up naming him the baby fox Todd. In the meantime, Tweed's neighbor, Almond Slade, brings home a new hound pup named Cooper. He introduces him to his older hound dog, Chief, and wants to train Copper into becoming a hunting dog like Chief. One morning, after causing some trouble in the barn, Todd goes out to play and ends up meeting Cooper. They decide to become fast friends and to stay best friends forever. They continue to meet up and play together, but each time Cooper's owner, Slade, calls him home. Slade does not like that Cooper continues to run off to go play, so to resolve it, he ends up tying Cooper to his doghouse, just like he has Chief. Noticing that Copper has not came to play with Todd, Todd decides to go looking for Copper. Todd finds Copper and realizes the reason for why Copper hasn't come out to play with him. Todd decides to stay with Copper and play near his doghouse. Cooper says they can't because they'll wake up Chief, and he's scared that doing so will harm Todd. Todd ends up being curious of Chief anyways and observes him. He ends up waking Chief up, causing Chief to go and chase after him. This ends up getting Slade out of his home and trying to shoot Todd. Todd runs all the way back to the safety of his owner, Tweed. Tweed ends up saving Copper from Slade, and Slade ends up threatening the Todd that if he ever goes back to his property, he would end up killing him. The next day, Tweed notices that Slade is going to a long hunting trip. During the hunting trip, Slade hopes that he can train Cooper into becoming a hunting dog. My name is Alexa, and my part was the beginning. And to review it, I will end up reviewing it. Todd is an orphan.
Okay.
I'm still going. Todd is an orphan. After his mother is killed, Tweed finds him and takes care of him. Tom becomes friends with Cooper, a hound pup. They end up being separated. The next speaker will be Matthew, and he will be talking about the conflict.
Yes. Thank you, Alexa, and I'm sorry for interrupting you there. I didn't mean to do that. So if anything's wrong for that part of it, it's on me. Ding me, give her the A. All right. So my name is Matthew Azar. We'll be talking points on my grade, of course, not hers. And going off what she was saying, covering several areas about the conflict. I'll be covering several areas about the conflict rise in the movie. My main points encompass some of the things that happened to Todd after he was separated from the farm, from Cooper, from Slade, from everyone else. Okay, so after an argument, as Alexa mentioned, Slade threatens to kill Todd if he trespasses on his farm again. Hunting season comes, and Slade takes his dogs into the wilderness for the interim. Meanwhile, Big Mama, Dinky, and Boomer attempt to explain to Todd that his friendship with Cooper will not continue, as they are natural enemies, but Todd naively refuses to believe them, hoping that he and Cooper will remain friends forever as they agreed. As several months pass, Todd and Cooper both reach adulthood, with Cooper having become an experienced hunting dog. So on the night of Cooper's return, Todd sneaks over to visit him, asking if they can still be friends. Copper, however, says that the days of their friendship are now over, now that he is a hunting dog. Their conversation awakens Chief, who alerts Slade. Chaos. Cooper catches Todd, but lets him go and diverts Slade. Chief, however, catches Todd and when he attempts an escape on a railroad track, but is struck by an oncoming train and falls into the river below, breaking his leg. Enraged by this, Copper and Slade blame Todd for the accident and vow revenge. Realizing Todd is no longer safe with her, Tweed leaves him at a game preserve. Todd's first night alone in the woods proves disastrous, as he inadvertently trespasses into an irritable old badger's den. Thankfully, a friendly porcupine offers Todd shelter. That same night, Slade and Copper plan to poach Todd. The next morning, Big Mama finds Todd and introduces him to her best friend, a female fox named Vixie, who helps Todd adapt to life in the forest. After a botched attempt at fishing, Todd gives an angry rant, but later apologizes to Vixie at Big Mama's urging. Now, let's see here. Get my notes. Okay. Romola can discuss what happens next. Once again, my name is Matthew Azar, and I discussed some of the events that led to the conflict rise that occurred after the fox separated from the farm. Once again, here's Romola, and thank you.
Thank you, Matt. My name is Romola, and I will be discussing the highest point of tension for the plot as the characters are chased by, as Todd is chased by his former friend and his owner. So when Chief is injured, Slade and Copper resolve to take revenge by poaching Todd. As a result, they begin hunting for him. When they find him, they start chasing him, and start chasing him through the woods. Todd, of course, is running for his life, and inadvertently leads Slade and Copper deeper into the woods. In an odd twist of irony, one of Slade's own traps stops him from chasing. A bear trap snaps over his own leg. As Copper is now trying to save his human from this trap, Todd continues to escape. Then a bear comes, and a bear starts approaching and decides to attack Copper and Slade. At the last moment, Todd realizes this and is forced to decide, will he secure his survival by letting his old best friend and his master die, or will he try and save what is left of their relationship and go back and save him? My name is Ramola, and I spoke about the highest point of tension in the movie, The Fox and the Hound. Maritza will now talk about the ending and the cool down of this high stake moment in the main characters' lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Maritza, and I'll be elaborating a little bit more about what Romola just discussed. After Slade gets caught in the bear trap, the vicious bear is growling and slowly approaching Slade to kill him for shooting him. Copper then gets in between the bear and Slade to try to save him from the incoming bear. Copper gets in between and starts growling at the bear. He then attacks the bear by biting it on its neck. Copper bites and latches onto the bear's neck, but since the bear is so big, it swats Copper out of the way. Copper gets back and continues to fight the bear, but a dog is no match for a vicious bear. The bear ends up seriously injuring Copper and is approaching him to finish him off when Todd hears Copper's cries and has a change of heart and returns to save his old best friend's life. Todd runs back to the scene and sees that the bear is about to kill Copper, so he jumps on the bear's back and starts biting and attacking him. A fox is also no match for a bear, so the bear ends up swatting Todd to the ground. Todd then manages to escape the bear's attacks and runs to the waterfall. Todd then starts biting and attacking the bear from different directions, but the bear ends up swatting Todd to the other end of the waterfall. The only thing separating Todd and the bear is a log that is on the other side of the waterfall, which is where Todd ends up landing. The bear, being really furious, gets on the log to try to kill Todd, but since it's really heavy, the log snaps in half, and both Todd and the bear fall down the waterfall. After a bit, Todd washes up on the river's edge. Copper, being a hunting dog, ends up finding a very weak Todd. Since Copper found Todd, that meant that Slade wasn't too far behind. Slade ends up finding both Todd and Copper. Since Slade is a hunter, he is ready to kill and shoot Todd. But Copper saves his former best friend's life by standing in front of him and refusing to move until Slade drops the gun. After a few moments, Slade has a change of heart after realizing that Todd saved him and Copper from the bear. He ends up lowering his weapon and tells Copper it's time to go home. Copper and Todd share one last smile before parting ways forever. At the end, Copper and Slade both return home. Slade is nursed back to health by Tweed, and Chief and Copper are still outside guarding the farm. From afar on a hill in the woods, Vixie and Todd look down on the homes of Slade and Tweed. Once again, my name is Maritza Yanez, and Jeremiah will now do the conclusion.
All right, thank you, Maritza. Okay, so for the conclusion, my name is Jeremiah, like I said, and it's pretty much a friendship doomed from the start. So what that means is they thought they were going to be friends forever, for a lifetime, right? They were so young and so innocent that they didn't know what their maturity was going to be once they were fully developed and, once they started to grow apart from each other. The reason why they started to grow apart from each other is because Cooper started to spend more time with his owner and he started to spend more time with Chief. And once he started to spend more time with them, he started to realize that his purpose of being, a hound dog is to literally wear off other animals in the farm, which is what hound dogs' purposes are. They're hunting animals. So they mainly, scare away other animals like foxes. And if they're literally best friends, it's going to be hard for them to be friends because their purpose is to literally, get them out of the farm. So what happened is, since they stopped spending so much time together, he started to get that mental state of, I'm a hound dog and I'm going to start, acting like one because Chief is telling me to, and so is my owner. So he started to act more like that. And once they actually they stopped seeing each other, their relationship wasn't like it used to be. It wasn't the same at all. And quite frankly, they started to become very distant. And once they started to become distant, their relationship just grew to nothing. So like Maritza was saying, is during that final scene, when the bear was on the log and then, Todd fell down to the river and he was washed up and Cooper found him there, he spared his life. But even though they weren't on the same, connection like they used to be with their friendship, he still had his feelings in the back of his head saying, wow, well, we used to be, friends. So let me spare his life really quick. So he spared his life, and he stayed there until his owner dropped the gun and let him go. And as soon as Todd was let go, he lived his life happily ever in the forest with the female fox named Vixie. And after that, the owner, which is named Slade, he wanted Cooper and Chief to go back with him to the farm, and they went back to the farm, and they lived pretty much at the farm, and they never saw each other from that point again because they weren't supposed to. They weren't supposed to at all. And once they get back to the farm, they stayed there, and Todd and Vixie in the forest, they just overlooked the farm, and their friendship pretty much grew apart from there, and they lived their own happily ever lives. So it pretty much was a friendship doomed from the start, yet they didn't know that it was going to happen. And now Matt is going to close our presentation.
Well, so before that, basically, that's what Jeremiah said is the end. What we reviewed in this discussion was how Todd and Copper probably never should have met, but they did, and the result was a tragic friendship where Todd has his own ideals about their lives, and Copper has his own pack, Chief and Slade, telling him what to do, and because they're his pack, they have more authority over him. He ends up following their ideals, and the end result of that is them no longer being able to be friends. So the ending result of that is the only usefulness of their friendship in the end was the fact that they could save each other's lives just once. And now Matt will close this discussion.
Thank you. Overall, to close the presentation, the Fox and the Hound are like a Shakespearean tragedy doomed from the start. They could not overcome the pressures that impacted their friendship. Thank you, and our group is named Foxworthy, with myself, Matthew.
Alexa.
Romola.
Okay, sorry, I'm here.
And Jeremiah.
And Maritza.
Thank you all so much for being a great group. All right, bye guys.